Welcome to my shed. This is my NJ Pajero. I'm currently doing a 4M41 3.2 litre conversion. A few people have made comments to me on Facebook that they're interested in doing a similar conversion, so I thought I would show you around what I've done. Start with the engine's bolted to the factory NJ Pajero 5-speed manual. I've used the NJ Pajero clutch and flywheel because this car was originally a 2.8 litre. If we look down here, I've modified the Pajero dump pipe. Sorry, that's out of the Triton. So I bought a wrecked Triton, it came with a 3-inch exhaust. So I've modified the 3-inch dump pipe to match up with my existing 3-inch exhaust that I had on my NJ. For engine mounts, I've used the NJ mounts. Probably hard to see down in here. See if I can get a view. So the engine mount down here, you can see I had to chop a bit off the side of it to fit the oil drain pipe past it. That was what fouled with the existing NJ mount. I've also used, don't know if you can see it, the radiator hose, bottom radiator hose, and the metal pipe that bolts to the side of the block off the NJ, and then just used a flexible hose from the auto parts store just to snake down to that pipe. On the radiator, I've also used the NJ radiator. The top hose is just a cut down NJ hose. It has a 90-degree on one of the ends, which I've cut off. So that's it on this side. Round the other side, I've also used the NJ mounts because the Triton mounts are actually in a different position. Don't think you'll be able to see this one. It's down there somewhere. I'll have to show some still shots of that one, but there's a bracket that holds the fuel pump on, which fouls with one of the mounting holes for that, which that same bracket also fouls with the NJ Pajero air conditioning bracket. I used the NJ bracket because I didn't want to be disconnecting the aircon hoses, and it was easier just to put the NJ air conditioning compressor back on, but it needed the NJ bracket. You could equally just use the Triton aircon compressor, but then you would have to change lines and things. Lines on the power steering pump are a little bit different. I already had some aftermarket hose run for my feed line from the oil tank, but then the high pressure line, I've used the Triton flexible line up to the top of the motor here. I then had a hydraulic shop weld up 2 parts of the metal line, one from 10mm down to 8mm, to then connect to the original flex line from the NJ, which then goes down to the steering box. The feed line from this tank, as I said, already had aftermarket hose, runs across, uses the original metal line from the NJ, which is kind of bolted on there at the moment. I need to probably modify the bracket so it bolts on better, and then it drops down to the pump inlet. The only issue with using the aircon out of the NJ and its associate bracket is, you can't really tell on the camera, but down here that belt is really close to a bolt on the vacuum pump, so I may need to get a shorter belt to get some clearance there. Okay, here's the view from underneath with the 4M40. You can see it's mounted to the original gearbox of the NJ. The sump fits, oil filter fits. Just had to unbolt the vacuum canister for the front diff. That's just been twisted to the side with only one bolt in it now. I'll make an adapter bracket for that later to hold it in properly. Another view of the dump pipe. So I already had a straight through 3-inch exhaust fitted to my Pajero. The Triton also came with a 3-inch exhaust, so I just used the dump pipe. It just needed a slight massage to clear the heat shield up the top, and needed the flange plate re-welded on and a little extension to attach up to my exhaust. If I was starting the conversion from scratch with standard equipment, I would probably factor in putting a full custom exhaust in just to make it easier. Used the Triton starter motor because there's actually a bracket in the way that stops the Pajero starter motor fitting in. I've also used the existing Pajero wiring for the starter and alternator. Using the Pajero alternator also meant I could keep the existing wiring, which makes things a little bit easier. The 4M41 actually has wiring that comes up over the top from the alternator, so I've removed that loom, which is actually a separate loom. For this conversion, you're going to need the main engine loom. It's attached to the 4M41. You can see it here. Comes out. That's where it goes through the firewall. These are the main plugs inside. These are the ECU plugs, 2 big black ones. These white plugs are what interface to the dashboard and things like that, and warning lights and gauges. You have your glow plug solenoid, and this part of the relay box unclips off, which gives you your main engine control relay, plus your other under engine bay connectors, which we'll need to connect into the Pajero. You also have this long cable that runs across under the dash to the throttle pedal. You'll need the throttle pedal, and you'll also need this wiring from under the dash, which I've already stripped out of the loom. So these are the main plugs that attach to the engine loom. You'll need, this is the immobilizer unit, which you'll find on the left hand side of the footwell on the driver's side, connected to the side of the blower unit or the air conditioning unit. You also need this key receiver, which is on the ignition barrel, and a key. All these need to be matching. I've also kept the OBD plug, but the NJ Pajero also has an OBD plug in it, so I'll probably just be running those wires to the factory plug. These plugs I've already stripped and labelled, so we've got things like coolant temp gauge, tacho, power source, fuel level, the glow plug light, and the speed sensor. All these will then wire into the NJ Pajero loom. You'll also need the ECU, which you can find in the passenger's footwell. And I'll show you the throttle pedal. Here's the throttle pedal, which I'll need to make an adapter and probably cut and modify the actual pedal to place it where we need in the NJ Pajero. This is the engine loom out of the Pajero for the 4M40 engine, which we're going to strip and connect to the 4M41 loom. These are the main plugs we will need that plug into the inside, as well as this plug here, which plugs in under the fuse box in the Pajero. A couple more items you'll need that aren't attached to the engine. One is this little map sensor, which connects down to the manifold. And then there's also the loom runs all the way across the engine bay. This is the same in the Triton that I pulled the engine from. Runs across here over to the airbox, and you'll need the airflow meter. At the moment I'm still working out what to do with an airbox. I may actually chop the airflow meter pipe out of the airbox and create a custom airbox, but we'll see what happens. So that's basically what it takes to bolt a 4M41 into a Pajero that was existing 4M40 motor.